Be human.
Well, speaking of Asian population, there is a new study that finds gay Asian Americans are viewed as more American than straight Asian Americans. They tend to be rated higher according to a study published in Social, Psychological, and Personality Science. Two different studies, over 1,300 individuals recruited. Participants were randomly assigned to read a description of a person who was described either as a man, a woman, a white person, or an Asian American. And the person's sexual orientation was noted as gay or it wasn't listed. And the participants were asked to rate this person's American identity with statements such as, how American is this person? How fluent do you think this person speaks English, or how fluently? And how integrated is this person in American culture? What did they find? They found the researchers discovered Asian Americans who were identified as gay were perceived to be more American. And they think that they theorize American culture is perceived as more accepting of gay people compared to Asian culture, and as a result, gay Asian Americans are perceived more likely to be American than their straight counterparts. Frank, as our resident Frank,
I was wondering where that was going.
Yeah, I was wondering that too.
resident,
I was like, not Asian.
Frank, what do you make of this very weird study?
Oddly, it kind of makes sense to me.
It does
But
not make sense.
No, it does. I'll tell you why.
It does not.
It does. I'll tell you why. They weren't looking. You're not looking at the actual people. These are just questions. So you're not biased by sort of like, okay, let me look at what this person looks like. The problem I have with the study is they said that there's this anti-gay bias in Asian countries. Well, I wouldn't know that. And people filling out the questionnaire, I don't know how they would even have that in their mind. But I think how do I say this? You think
great. That's
yeah, I gotta,
that's
I'm
great to hear.
That is the challenge, yes.
I picture two guys holding hands and walking across a park or something. And I picture them as Asian, and I think, oh yeah, they're from America. It just makes sense. It just fits in my head. And if I saw two Muslims that are holding hands, I would guarantee they're from the U.S. because they would get killed somewhere else. So they've got to be from the U.S.
You're saying if an Asian is openly gay or identified as gay, it's more likely that they're in the U.S. because of that they're open because they're in the U.S.
Yes. That's right. They're open because then they're in the U.S. And in China, you're not going to be open there. No, sir.
Well, and that is true, but there are definitely pockets of, in cultures
Not
for
over there.
Asia. In Asia, there are pockets, and I mean, maybe Heatherly, you are Asian. Can you speak to this more? I don't know. I mean,
Oh my.
I would like to hear your thoughts.
Well, I think actually Frank proves the study,
Right.
which is like
Bias.
a very
Bias.
a brain inside of an American. You present these two different data points, and they find some way to explain it. And I think there's just these automatic assumptions. There's these automatic assumptions, but I do think that the more you understand traditional Asian culture, there's probably some seeds of truth embedded in maybe these assumptions or these stereotypes, because Asian culture tends to be very internalized, very proper. So they tend to be very private about personal things. It is not an individualistic culture by and large. You represent the family or the company, and all these other things. So your behaviors and how you present yourself is a larger reflection on other people or organizations or institutions. And part of, and this is something where I'm going to go out on a limb and just sort of share my anecdotal impression. part of American LGBTQ plus community is really about finding your community and about being celebrating and being very open and proud of how you identify. And so in American culture, that really is about a large part of that's your exterior, how you present yourself. And so to me, it would make a lot of sense that if there was an Asian American that identified as LGBTQ plus, that unlike their traditional culture of being very proper and conformed to their culture, that gay Asian Americans would celebrate that part of their identity in a way that really, I think, represents a cool part of America. I am not here saying America is the land of great tolerance and freedom. We just did an episode on Pride Month. But I do think, in contrast to some Asian cultures, yes, we are much more tolerant and we're much more individualistic and open and accepting to expressions of yourself.
I would agree with that. And I feel like I would hope that they would do some follow-up research on this instead of just... Obviously, they're bringing some increased awareness to biases that we hold, but at the same time, I would want them to do some follow-up to say, okay, so we have these biases. What does that mean? How does that shape things in terms of how maybe we would interact with people? And how could we essentially try to address the bias? So,
well, you guys got a little further down the line of convincing me. I started with this makes no sense at all, and it makes a little bit of sense maybe. But I'm with Emma Kate. I'm wondering still if it's an artifact of this study. Like, I wonder if you replicated the study, if you'd find the same thing. I don't know, but it's an interesting thought. So we'll see if there's other research that kind of hits that same point.
Hey, Heatherly, why don't you go over to our sound engineer, hold his hand, and I'll tell you if you look like you're from here or not. Let's test it out.
that's what the study did.
Yeah.
No.
No.
You said they
I know.
didn't. Uh-huh.
I know.
Okay, Frank.
Okay.
Good thinking.
Thanks for watching this Being Human segment from the Shrink Tank podcast. To watch the full episode, click here, or to check out previous episodes, click here.